Hi everyone, I Sam. Welcome to our next video build series. So, we've already had a techniques guide where we've gone through step by step the way to do everything. This build is just following me along with a build, picking up pertinent points through the build and going through it. So there's no elaborating on every step that we've already done. If anything's different, I'll stop and talk about it and explain what's different and the way it was done. But for the most part, we're just going through the build. So I've no idea how many parts we're going to get. I'm in between 3 and 4. Part 1 today, I plan to get the car all cleaned up, ready for primer, primed, base coated, and then decaled in preparation for our 2K clear, which we'll do in part 2. So that's the plan for today. They're going to be between 30 and 40 minutes long, roughly. I don't like the shorter videos, you just get them going and they end. I'd rather do them a little bit longer, and the feedback I've got in the past is exactly the same. So, what we're going to be building? Well, surprise, surprise, it's Beemax BMW E30 M3 that I reviewed the other day. This was kind of donated to me by Frey at www.modelemporium.shop. The link's in the description down below. I've added a ton of aftermarket to it, which you can see in this picture here. And it's going to make Wayne Gardner's Jägermeister M3, which looks just like this. There we go. A lovely looking machine in mid-air. So that's what we're aiming for. So we've got a bit of aftermarket there. We've got the aftermarket detail set, got the aftermarket decals themselves. We've got aftermarket seat, wheels. We've got a mask set to add to it. We've got some splash paints to try for the first time. We've got the splash 2K clear to try for the first time. And I think that's about it. So it's going to be a good build. And like I say, we're going to push through it. We're not going to sit and elaborate, but I'll try and talk through as much as I can. And like I say, explain anything that's different at all. So there we are. So let's crack on with the build and start with getting all the body cleaned up and getting it ready for primer. Okay, so our build, here's a BMW body shell. We've got the bonnet and rear bumper and the front bumper as well. They all need removing from the sprues and cleaning up. So on the body shell itself, there are 6 sprue points that need removing. 2 at the front, 2 at the rear, and 2 in the front windscreen too. Be aware of any P that's called out for on the little boxes that are shaded. We've also got our bonnet at the front that needs the moulded bonnet pins removing because we're going to use the aftermarket PE ones, and our front bumper as well. And then on to our rear bumper, as you can see there. So these all need cutting off from the sprue, cleaning up, and then we can attach them to the body in preparation for primer. So using our cutters, we're getting close up to the body to trim them off. Not right up because the cutters will do most of the work, the sander will do the rest. So just some careful cutting, take your time, don't remove too much. It's easy to take more off, you can't really add it back once you cut it off. Be aware there are some seam lines over the body that you're moving, over the front headlight there, along the top of the bonnet, up over the A-pillar, at the top of the A-pillar, and then keep an eye out, run down the back, along the boot lid at the back as well. And they just need a light bit of sanding with I like to use UMP sponge grey thinny sander, and then we've got our bonnet pins on the boot lid to remove as well. So we're going to grab our 400 thinny stick to get rid of the locating points in the front windscreen, in the bonnet, and on the rear screen as well. And applying very little pressure, let the sander do the work. We're going to remove most of the plastic. Take your time. Like I say, it's easy to take more off. It's hard to put it back once you've removed it. So once you're happy that they're cleaned up, we've grabbed a sharp knife and with some careful cutting, angle the blade so it's flat to the body. We're just going to slice off the bonnet pins. If you're not sure about using a knife, you can use a chisel, which I often use, but again, you've got to be careful you don't slip. If you're not sure, use a sander and just take a little bit longer to sand it off, but I'm pretty confident what I'm doing. So I just get the knife, brand new blade. Again, let the blade do the work, don't apply a lot of pressure. And just work away at it slowly until you've removed all the plastic that's sticking up. Once you've got it off, a quick look, make sure we're as flat as we can be. And then we're going to grab our thinny stick again. And again, light pressure, just going to sand over the top of them. You don't want to apply a lot of pressure because you end up putting indentations in the body or removing the profile of the body. And that's not what we want to do. We just want to get rid of those body pins, and then once we're all finished and painted up, we can use the PE ones, which look a lot better. So again, light pressure all over, just making sure they've gone. There is a seam there as well, but we'll get the seam with the sponge because it's a bit easier on the curved edges. Once you're happy that they're gone, we'll grab a buffer and give them a buff up. We're not going to truly buff it up to a high shine because the rest of the body isn't a high shine. It has a kind of texture to it. So we'll match that with the buffer once we're happy. Now we've got our thinny sponge, the 240 one. And again, hardly any pressure. We're just angling it over the edge to get rid of that seam line on the edge of the boot lid until we're happy it's gone. It does go onto the C-pillar a little bit, so angle your sponge a little bit to get in there. But don't apply a lot of pressure. We don't want to remove the profile of the body. It runs down the back of the boot lid too. So again, just a little bit of pressure. Using a decent sander, they're very quickly dealt with. Keep the sander clean, wipe it off occasionally, either on a cloth or, as you may, trouser leg, just to keep the free from sanding dust. And just methodically work your way around, removing all the seams. Again, once we're done, we use the harsher side of the polishing sponge. We don't want a high shine, so we're just going to use the green or blue side, and that will match the texture that's already on the body from Beemax. It's a very clean body out the box, just a few seam lines. With the front rear bumper being slide molded, they have no seams on them, whereas if they were attached to the body, we'd have to clean those up too. So here we have our buffer. We've got the green side we're using, which is the more abrasive side. And once we're happy with that, a quick visual check, and we're happy with that, we can then deal with the A-pillar one. Again, very light pressure off the grey sponge. Using your eye, don't go too far, just make sure it's all gone. Have a look along everywhere upon these seams because the seam will run from front to rear. It's quite often hidden in panel lines or on the edge of the windscreen, as you can see here. And it just needs a little bit of work to get rid of it. Get our buffer again and give it a go over. Right, so there we go. We're all de-seamed. Pretty happy how that's cleaned up. We've got our rear spoiler as well, which we're leaving as is today. And our front bumper all cleaned up. All the locator points have been cleaned up with the 400 thinny stick and the buffer. So front, rear bumper and the bonnet all cleaned up with their locating points. Now, the bonnet, there's 4 locating points underneath, as you can see. 4 pins. And this is one of the problems of the kit. When you use the locator points with the pins, the bonnet sits offset ever so slightly to the left. Not a massive amount, but it is noticeable. You could quite happily leave it like that and probably nobody would ever notice. But you can either cut the pins off and just move it over and glue it down, or the way I've been doing it recently is just enlarge the locating holes a little bit using one of our Sujiburito files. These are brand new. They're now in a pin vise. They used to be in a pop-out pen, but they're now in a very handy micro pin vise. This is a 400 grade round file, and applying light pressure, let the tool do the work again. We're just going to open up the hole to the right, so when we put the bonnet in, we can just ease it over to the right that little bit, then apply our glue and glue it in place. These are fantastic files, they really are. Again, they're not a cheap tool, but good tools never are cheap. This thing will last you a long time if you're careful with it. Obviously, it's a thin file, so don't apply a massive amount of sideways pressure. Just let the file do the work, enlarge the holes, and then once we pop the bonnet back in, as you'll see, the gap is equal both sides. Happy days, job done. So now we can glue it in place. Now, there is a resin engine available for this kit. It's as expensive as the kit. It is not cheap at all. But it looks a worthy addition. I may add one at some point, but we're not going to do it on this build. So if you're going to leave that bonnet loose, you're probably best taking those locator pins off. Or if you're going to glue it shut, I would just open the holes. Test fitting the rear bumper. I know this fits well. I've built this kit many times. So just double checking our locator points, making sure we're fine. I'm going to grab some Tamiya white glue. Add some to the locator parts. And glue the rear section on first. So there's 2 locator stubs on the back, as you can see. This is the thicker of the Tamiya glue, a little bit slower drying as well. So it allows us to manipulate things around. As you can see, on our very stylish UMP glue holders you can get on our site. You can get the glue from us now, but now a Tamiya stockist as well, so the glues are available from UMP retail as well. So there we go, we push the back on, we're just going to hold it for a couple of seconds, give it a little bit of purchase. Once we're happy that it's got it, we'll line up the sides, hold it, grab our Tamiya extra thin, and apply a light beaded glue along the side, making sure there's no fingers behind in the way. Otherwise, you run the risk of it seeping through, run onto your fingers, and leaving a nice fingerprint that needs quite a bit of work to remove. So we just apply that, give it a few seconds to tack. You know me, my Tamiya extra thin is mixed with Plastic-Weld, so it's a bit of a hotter glue, so it dries a lot quicker. It's worthwhile doing. It does smell a bit more, but it dries a lot quicker. So getting some purchase on parts like these is a lot quicker and a lot easier. So I'm just making sure we're in place. What you don't want to do is squeeze it too tight and have some molten plastic come out the side, because it ruins the seam line of the bumper and looks pretty hideous. So work smarter, not harder. Don't create more work for yourself. Just take your time. Don't put massive amounts of glue on. Just enough to allow the capillary action to work, to pull it into the bumper, and just hold it for a few seconds and let the glue do its job. Once we're happy with that, we'll run a bead down the back and inside in a few places, just like that. There we go. So very light amount of glue. This bottle is nearly half empty, so the brush isn't picking up a massive amount, which is perfect. As you can see, when I finish my glue, I'll put the lid back on. Lessons learned. I have got another glue holder. It's off camera and no idea why the glue's not in it. I think for speed, I just grab the glue. So there we go, give it a hold for a few seconds. Like I say, don't give it a death grip, because you will get molten plastic squeeze out the side. That's not what we want. Take your time, let the glue do the work. Once you're happy, you can hold it in place. So there we go, we've now got our glue holder. And we're going to glue our rear bumper in place. So a light bead of glue down the back. Just to hold it in, and then we give it a very light push in place. Again, not too hard. And there we go, that's the back bumper on. And then we're going to do exactly the same for the front bumper, 2 locator points. Now, the radiator does need painting. We're not going to do it now because it'll be painted orange when we paint the car, so there's no point. And there is a bit of photo etch to get in there. It says to apply it now in the instructions, but in my experience, you can squeeze it up through the gap later on. So that is what we'll do. Again, Tamiya white glue. Pop it in place. And this is exactly the same way we did the rear bumper. Tack it in place in a couple of places. Don't put excess amounts of glue on. Take your time. And we're going to pop it in place. Hold it in place until it's glued. Again, if you want to, apply some extra thin. As you can see, it popped off. Don't. Apply some extra thin on the edges and anywhere you can reach inside, because that will get a bit more purchase and dry a bit quicker than the white glue. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So basically, it's a repeat of the rear bumper. Okay, now we're going to glue our bonnet in place, or hood if you're American, but I'm British, so to me, it's a bonnet. So we've got some of the thicker Tamiya white glue. Just going to pop this in. This will give us some purchase where we get it in place where we want it. So pop it in. Again, make sure your fingers are glue free. If in doubt, wipe them and then come back. You don't want a glue print on this body. Once we're happy we've got it in place, we then grab some Tamiya extra thin, which I've got in this holder now. Look, see, my special blue clear one, especially made for me. And we'll apply some Tamiya extra thin on the inside. Now, the other trait of this kit is that the bonnet can sit a little bit low. So when you're gluing it in place, if you want to push it back out just a tad to raise it, it's not really all that noticeable, but it's enough that it can be a concern to some. It's not to me. That's just the way it is. Right now, our rims. Now, the kit rims are good out of the box, as you can see. Nicely detailed. The spokes are pretty thin, but the scale production rims are a huge improvement. The center looks a lot better. The spokes are a lot finer, and the detail all round is superb. It really is a worthy addition. Again, it starts adding to the cost of the kit, because a aftermarket set of wheels is going to cost you another £15. An aftermarket set will cost you another £16. Decal set 15 to 20, and it does start to get expensive, but this is my only hobby and I'm more than happy to put money into it. So, being a resin wheel, they're cast in one piece. The centre lock centre is aluminium. There is some flash on there. To be fair, for resin wheels, they are very, very clean. So we're going to use our Sujiburito micro file again to just get in there and get rid of any of that excess flash. I'm a little bit off camera, I do apologise, because I'm zoomed in. And we're out of focus as well. But it's just the way it is. All we're doing is there's little tiny wisps of flash in amongst the spokes. We're just running the sander along them to take them off. To be honest, if you paint it, you probably won't notice them, but me being me, I want to get rid of them. So we'll just get rid of anything we can see, and then checking the inside. And then we're going to clear out those little holes, little scallop holes, just there, of anything that's in there, and make sure they're nice and clean. Now, when we're putting these wheels on the car, we're really going to have to take our time, because it's literally those very thin spokes of resin that hold the rim on. So these are going to break very easy if we're not careful. But there we go, nice and clean and ready for priming. So what we've done, we've mounted some Tamiya tape upside down, sticky side up, on one of my part holders and stuck the wheels on in preparation. We've got our toothbrush, my ever faithful toothbrush, some UMP cleaner, and we're going to clean up the wheels and the body shell of any sanding dust, fingerprints, anything at all contaminants that will be on there in preparation for primer. So again, another couple of minutes spent is well worth it. Again, this technique's well covered in my Subaru Build Techniques series. If you want to go on over, I cover the entire process of body prep in about a 30-minute video. Just make sure our bumper's on. It's fine. I'm just double checking. So yeah, if you want to elaborate on any more of these details that I'm doing, go to the Subaru Build series and there'll be a dedicated video covering these parts in general. But I'm just removing any sanding dust, and then we're going to get our UMP cleaner and a bit of kitchen paper and take off any contaminants off the surface that may bother us whilst priming. So there we go. So that is actually a special UMP cleaner I have with no dye in. Our UMP cleaners dye blue, so you can tell which one's which at a glance. I've got one made specifically for me that is just clear. Whether it's something we may release at a future date, I don't know. But I did this for me, and that's just the way it goes. I don't need a blue dye in there, so I just made a clear version up instead. So we've got our UMP primer. This has been heated up in my baby bottle warmer. It's probably been heated to about 50 degrees centigrade. It's going through my UMP Apex at about 25 to 30 psi. And we're going to apply several light coats. A lot of people seem to have trouble with the white primer. Again, I covered this in the Subaru Build series. It just needs very, very light coats. As you can see, I've started to build it up now on the side. It's on a white body, so this is the hardest way to spray white primer. White on white, you can barely see. But we're just giving it very light coats. Having it at the higher pressure, it sprays better, it atomizes better. I never have a problem with it at all. I know some people do, but I just don't. So we're going to fill the colour cup up on the airbrush now. And systematically go all around the body, prime it up, and we'll probably give it 3 to 4 light coats. As the primer starts to lay down in subsequent coats, we can then build up the level by starting to put it on a little bit heavier. But it doesn't need hosing on, it just needs building up slowly until we get a nice primed layer. Now it's a microfiller primer, polyurethane, so it is going to fill any slight blemishes or scratches or marks. And once dried for 12 to 24 hours, it's as hard as nails, and it's a very, very good primer. Onto our spoiler. Like I say, with this machine, this is the first one I'm going to make with the full spoiler. All the other cars I've made have had the lower rear spoiler without that upper flick. You can buy an aftermarket set for that. For me, I've cut them off and sanded them smooth, and they've all looked great. Okay, so here we are at the end of coat 3. I've got full coverage everywhere. I'm just having a good look around to make sure everywhere is covered. I'm going to use the airbrush to help dry it off quickly. But it's looking good. It's covered well, pretty even all over, no bother at all. There's no major blemishes showing through that need any work. All the seams have been dealt with. So once this is dry, we can leave it for 12 hours, 24 hours. and then come back and get our base coat down. So like I say, for those having trouble with the white primer, any white paint is troublesome to spray. It's just the nature of the paint. Nice light thin coat, letting it dry in between coats and just build it up slowly is the key. There's no other way of doing it. But as you can see, I got a very nice coat there, and just put a little bit more down on the side. No problem at all, and it's going to give us a real nice base for our Jägermeister orange. Okay, so our wheels have been primed in UMP black primer. We're just finishing off the primer there. Again, gone down great, no problem at all. And this will give us a nice base coat for our metallic paint. So again, the black primer sprayed at 25-30 psi, about 3 light coats, and it goes down great over the resin, no problem at all. For our base colour, we're going to use the Mr. Hobby Super Metallic Super Fine Silver. This will be thinned about 50-50 with Mr. Leveling Thinner. And again, we're probably about 3 light coats on, covering all the angles like we did in the Subaru video. There we go, Mr. Hobby Leveling Thinner. Yeah, covering all the angles to make sure we get an even spread all over and equal coverage. So just giving the paint a good stir of our Badger paint mixer. Make sure all the pigments are nicely mixed. And we use our medicine cup. A lot of people ask about these medicine cups. I get them from Care Corner, which is an online medical site basically. They cost about 3p each. You can buy them in a pack of, I think it's 75 for £2.70. And they last a long time, and they are impervious to lacquer thinners, cellulose thinners. They don't melt like the cheaper ones. So a bit of money well spent. They last a long time, and yeah, they work really well. Nice and flexible, and some of them you can even get lids for, so you can store paint. So another very handy thing. So we just chucked in about 50% leveling thinner. Again, give it a mix up with the Badger paint mixer. Off camera, unfortunately, I do apologise. Once we're happy with that, we'll load up the airbrush. We'll lower the pressure down to about 18 psi for this, and start getting some coats down on the wheels. As you can see, they're held on by our masking tape, which is great. And there we go. So what I tend to do is do circular motions on the first coat, and then I come in from the front, back, left and right on an angle in circular motions to ensure we get all the spokes covered, all the inner rim, so on and so forth. And that's it. So we'll do about 3 coats like this, and once that's done, they'll be completely covered. Again, give them a few days to dry before you handle them, and job done, no problem at all. Onto our chassis. So again, loads of locator points to clean up and take off. We've got our wing mirrors to do as well, which I actually forgot about. So we're going to deal with those now, or in a little bit. We're going to clean up the chassis first, build the roll cage, and then we can prime these in white as well, in preparation again for Jägermeister orange, because the entire chassis, interior and roll cage is orange, as well as the car. The mirrors need priming in white to be sprayed along with the exterior. Luckily I spotted them now and not later on, but we're all good. So this is the roll cage. It's all assembled, glued in place. There you go, so happy with that. That can be left to sit to one side for half an hour or so for the glue to dry before we commit to primer. Now, the wing mirrors. 2 locator points. There's a screw point just on the bottom there I'm sanding off. And the other one is on the inside of the mirror. So we can leave these attached to the sprue and use that as a handy mounting point for spraying. So what we'll do is we'll grab my little battery powered tool, drill a little hole on the bottom, put a cocktail stick in, and away we go. There we go. Nice and easy to hold, make life a lot easier. So there we go, nicely primed. Very happy that's gone. We've got some 12,000 grade micro mesh wet and dry, and a little pot of water. And as we did in the Subaru video, you can go and watch me do a full video showing this as well. We're going to lightly take back the primer to remove any high spots, any dust, any spits of paint, and get it nice and smooth in preparation for our base colour. So again, just no pressure, allow your fingertip just to run across the surface. It's a slightly cushioned sandpaper, so it eliminates any real damage to the body, but be aware of edges or high spots because it will burn straight through the paint if you're not careful. Once you're done with one side, get some kitchen paper, dry it off, and just have a look. Make sure you've not missed anything or removed too much primer in places, which is easily done. So really do take your time with this. And once you're happy, you can move on and do the rest of the car. So there we go. There's all the car done. We're now going to use a Splash Jägermeister Orange. I've got a full review of this up on the channel. If you want to see a full paint test, you can go and have a look. For this, I've done a bit more of a concise test, just to get through the video quick, because we don't want to see the entire thing in its entirety. So I'm going to show the first coat. As always, give your rim a wipe. Give the paint a good shake. There's a mixable included in the bottle, which is great. And load up our colour cup again. Again, we're on the UP Apex. We're at the manufacturer recommended 15 to 20 psi. I'm actually at 18. Now, speaking to one of the directors of Splash, he now recommends 30. So their website needs updating drastically. And like I say, I had to use the entire bottle of paint to cover this car. Inside the car, the spoiler, and the wing mirrors, and I got a little bit done on the roll cage and the interior, but not a lot at all. So it didn't go a long way. I'm assuming that's because of the orange paint and being opaque. It needed a lot to build it up, but I'm being assured that if I spray it at a higher pressure, it'll cover better, which I can't see how that would work, but I'll try it next time. I just think it's the nature of the colour that it took a lot of build up to do. So you go, we're applying nice thin coats. This is the first time I've ever used this paint, and straight away I was impressed how it laid down, how it sprayed, really nice out the bottle, no problems at all. Obviously it's a lacquer paint, so you need to make sure you take precautions, wear a respirator, using an air booth, and just be careful. Don't be spraying it around pets or other family members, because it does absolutely stink. Beauty of a lacquer paint is it dries very quick, so you can put multiple coats on very quickly, and it's a nice tough paint as well. As you can see, we're just applying a very light first coat. As we go through the coats, we can build it up more and more until we get the colour we desire. So, run out of paint, so I'm just going to load the airbrush back up. There we go. Back onto the roof. Again, we're coming on and off the airbrush on every pass, making sure we've got no dust. So coming off the airbrush, as per normal spraying, it eliminates any spitting of the airbrush. Because if it does spit, it should do it off the model itself rather than on. And this will give us a better overall paint finish. Now, with this first coat, we're not going for total coverage. We're just getting a nice base coat down that we can then build up subsequently with our next coats. So I think I apply about 4 or 5 coats on this in total until I got the desired colour. And like I say, I did use the entire bottle. They're only 30ml bottles, sadly. Most of the other automotive paints are 60ml. So, like I say, I'm assured if I spray at higher pressure, it'll go further. That will be interesting to see. But I just think it's this colour. Because it's such an opaque colour, it just needed building up really slowly in a lot of coats. So I'm not putting a lot of paint down at all. We're just getting all underneath the sills, underneath the front bumper, and then we're going to spray the interior A, B and C pillars and the front and rear edge of the bonnet and boot to make sure it's all covered properly. Again, be aware of any nooks and crannies, any bumper inserts, any wheel arches. Make sure you get them covered, because there's nothing worse than getting done and you can see a glaring white piece of primer. Okay, here we are. This is our second coat, and again, starting to build it up more now, giving it a slightly heavier coat. We're still not hosing it on, we're still putting it on very thin, but we're putting a little bit thicker than the very first coat. And again, methodically all around the body, on and off at the end of each stroke. And one important thing I would recommend is make sure you get the bottom of those seams. Onto the rear bumper, and again over the boot lid, and again, just build it up slowly, take your time. It's a very nice paint. There was no adverse reactions on the plastic at all. It's gone down really well and sprayed really nice. Just getting the inner wheel arches done there. There we go. You can see the colour starting to show through a little bit more now. Like I say, I think the bottles need to be slightly bigger myself. But speaking to others that with darker colours, they've covered it a lot better. So maybe it is just the fact of the orange. We'll find out a later day because I've got plenty of bottles of these to test. In all different colours, from light yellows, reds to dark blues and purples. So it'd be interesting to see the results. Right, we're on about coat number 5. As you can see, the colour is there. Wow, what an orange colour that is. We've started to apply the paint a little bit thicker now. As you can see, got a lot more paint coming out the airbrush. And we're just checking around to make sure we've got equal coverage everywhere and that we're happy with the colour. Now, like I say in my review, like I say, there's a full review of this on the channel if you go back and have a look. Make sure you spray your spoiler and mirrors and any other body parts that need to be the same colour at the same time, so they are the same colour. There's nothing worse than putting a spoiler on or wing mirrors and they're a slightly different shade of orange, because it can happen. But happy with that, nice coverage there. So, as we run out of paint, sadly, I've had to use a different manufacturer of Jägermeister Orange for the roll cage and the interior and the chassis. But it's just the way it is. So there's our spoiler, getting this final last coat as well. And our wing mirrors, we get a quick blast and they are done too. So there we go, there's all the orange. Very nice, very vibrant as well. Very happy how that's sprayed. It's leveled nice, it stayed nice and smooth. Off camera, we sprayed the wing tip at the back black. That's in Mr. Colour Semi-Gloss Black. And this is in preparation for decaling. So, we've got our water tray with heated water on our coffee warmer USB pot. We've got some cotton buds, we've got our knife, tweezers, and for now, microset and sol, and Walther Solvaser should we need it. So there we go, we just place that at the back out of the way. We've got our decal cast Jägermeister decals. I've used these before. They've gone down pretty well in the past. We've got our Wade Gardner decal set on the bottom right and the generic set at the top. So they're pretty much differentiated well on the sheet. And this is the scheme we're going to do. So only the Wade Gardner version has that black tip on the spoiler. The other supplied decal set in there doesn't. So just be aware of that if you're using this decal set. We're also going to need the BMW logos out of the original Beemax kit decals as well, so make sure you don't throw those away. And then we can crack on with our decaling. Starting, pick a point where you want to start. For me, I normally start with the bigger decals themselves to make sure they go down with no problems at all. And again, work your way methodically around them. So we're going with one of the Jägermeister side decals for the BMW, obviously. So our water's nicely warmed up. I find the warm water helps. Again, there's a decaling video on the Subaru build. Pop it in. USB warmers, you can pick them up for £10-15. I've got a trumpeter decal tray on top. It's off screen, unfortunately. But if you go watch my decaling video, you can see this in full. I think it's part 3 of the Subaru build. And we just leave it there for 10 seconds or so. The warm water helps the decal come off the backing paper a lot quicker. And I also think it helps it conform better to the surface. So we've got some microscale microset on one of our water pen brushes. And we're just applying it where the decal is going to sit. And this will allow the decal to move around once we get it on the surface and start to help conform it in place. So there we go, it's nicely loose from the backing paper, wiped off any excess water, and we're popping it in place. Use the decal call out as a reference. As you can see, we've already got one on that side. We started with 2, but I felt the Jägermeister was a bit more of an interesting one to pick out straight away. So use the reference on the decal sheet to get it in place. Use door shuts, panel lines as reference. And on this one, the lowercase letters all sit above that little line just there. So we're just putting it in place by eye. Once we're happy with that, we can start removing the excess microset from underneath. So we'll use our brush, we'll dry it off, then wipe it over like so. There we go. Just nice and gentle over the top, wipe it off on a kitchen roll, come back, go the other way. That helps squeeze out any water or microset we've got underneath. Again, wipe it off, come back, and then get a cotton bud to get the excess out. And then we can get microsol on there and start to set it in place. Like I said, there is a full video out there if you want to go watch it. And I cover it a little bit more in depth. And in fact, there's another separate video somewhere as well where I show decal. But I think the Subaru Par 3 is probably the best. So again, get rid of all the excess solution from around the edges, and then we can start removing it from underneath the decal. You don't want to leave any solution under there because that can cause silver into the decal. We want to get rid of as much as we can until we're happy that it sits nicely on the model. So we have a panel line there. As you can see, sometimes things go wrong, and I just pulled a little bit of decal off. But not to worry, we've still got it. Make sure we get the right way round. We can pop it in place. Get it roughly where we want it. And once we get this solution on top, it'll mold it back in. So there you go, see, not everything goes perfect. But I get to sit in place. Okay, we then grab our brush again with some more micro set. I'm just going to go over it again lightly. So we're just trying to push it into the panel line a little bit without a lot of pressure, let the brush do the work. And there's a door panel line there as well. And then we're going to remove any excess over the top. Once we're happy with where it is and it's placed and we've got as much solution out from underneath as we can, we'll then hit it with a micro sol, leave it be for 5 minutes, then come back and have a look. And we can always apply more should we wish. And if that doesn't do the job, we can apply some Walther's solver set, which pretty much will set anything in its place. Once we're happy with where the decal is, we can then hit it with some micro sol to start conforming it in place. And then we can move on with the rest of the decals, which I'm going to speed through with a little bit of music for you, because this is about 2 hours work condensed into about 3 minutes. Go, all the decals are laid down really nice, they conform nicely, laid down well. This will now be left to dry for 48 hours and we'll come back and 2K clear it. Right, so there you go, that's where we're at right now. I'll put some stills up, this is what it looks like. There you go, she's looking good. Nice vibrant orange paintwork, nice decals, and once we 2K this, hopefully it's going to look fantastic. So that's where we're at today. Hope it hasn't gone on too long. If you found the videos too long, let me know. If you think they're just about right, again, let me know. It's a learning curve. I hope to do a few of these. I'll keep them going, to be honest. Won't be every week. But as and when I pick a build I want to do, we'll do it. Probably going to do them 2 parts per week as we get through them. I don't want them going on forever because I get through these builds very quick. So let me know what you think of the length of the videos, the style of the video, and give me any feedback you want on it. Any questions you've got, pop them in the comments down below. Just say hello, whatever. I'll reply to you down below. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, and leave a comment as well. So there we are. So that's where we're at today. We'll be back in a few days. Hopefully it'll be 2K cleared. We'll get some of the chassis done, the running gear, and the interior, and we can crack on and move forward with the build. So there we go. So I hope you enjoyed it today. Like I say, give me some feedback in the comments. Let me know what you think. Good or bad, I'm not bothered. And like I say, I'll see you for part 2 in a few days. So there we go. Thanks for watching. As always, check out ISM Facebook page and forum. Check out umpretail.com, Ultimate Modern Products retail site. We've got all sorts on there. Kits, primers, thinners, tools, all sorts. Go over there and have a look. Check out the Modern Hangout group for the Off Air Hangouts. I'll have the Bench Hangout group for the live on Friday night show. And my Paul ISM Facebook page as well, where all my modelling work is shared. And check out modelemporium.shop. Ray Shop, who very kindly supplied this kit. He's a great guy, great prices on that site as well, and really quick delivery. Very impressed with his delivery. Can't fault it at all. And there we go. Thanks for watching today. I'll catch you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.